Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast. With your hosts, Ashley and Michael, please sit back and enjoy the show.
What are we looking at?
It's a Charizard and an Eagles jersey.
Wow, that really caught me off guard there. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Undroppables Playbook, a football podcast presented by the Undroppables and sponsored by Analyst Depot. I am your host, Ashley. This is my co-host, Michael Duncan. How are you today?
I'm great. If you need a good follow on Twitter, it's called Pokemon Wearing Sports Paraphernalia. And the is @Jays2Cannon. They just randomly post random Pokemon wearing random sports gear. And this one showed up on my feed today.
What is he drinking?
It's an Eagles Bud Light, Ashley.
Oh, okay. I couldn't see it that well.
It's
neither can our viewers who are listening over podcasts.
It's got the Super Bowl LII on it because that's the one where we won.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Well, the stage is set for our next week, but why don't we go back a little bit? We'll start with what's happened this past week and some news that's gone on. There, as always, have been a bunch of coaching changes, and same as last week, we're not going to talk about who has requested who because we could sit here for 2 hours and talk about that. We'll talk about the changes that have already been made. The Titans have decided to hire 49ers Director of Player Personnel Ryan Carthorne as their new GM. The Chargers fire offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi. That came amidst rumors about Brandon Staley being fired after the epic collapse, which Duncan will tell you about in our next segment.
Chargers.
Yeah. The Browns have hired Jim Schwartz as their new defensive coordinator, and Matt Canada, whose seat was very, very hot and probably still will be, will remain as the offensive coordinators of the Steelers. And my addition to that is, in parentheses, yuck. Don't understand that decision. I don't think many people do. Our coach that got fired last week, former Arizona Cardinals Cliff Kingsbury, who has since been fired, bought a one-way ticket to Thailand. And amidst being asked if he was going to return and people asking to interview him for other positions, he said no thank you and took his one-way ticket to Thailand. And I don't think we're going to hear from him for a bit.
I mean, he got that bag.
He did.
He's 1 year into that contract, so I don't really blame him.
He did. He no longer has to babysit Kyler Murray's screen time, so he's gonna spend that all that extra free time he has on a beach in Thailand somewhere.
And thankfully, he also doesn't have to coach football. Thankfully for us, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's thrilling. And I did want to leave a note in here that according to Sean McDermott, Damar Hamlin, who we spoke about last week, who had that serious injury against the Bengals, has been in the building almost every day. He's looking to get back into more of a routine. No word right now about football, but just happy. The team as a whole seems to be extremely excited that he's just back in the building, rightfully so. Spending most of his days there, rehabbing, getting into a schedule, and just being around his family.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear. It's just a very happy ending to a very...
Yes, it could have gone so wrong, and thanks to... a lot of smart decisions by the Bills and Bengals medical staff and UCMC. He is still able to go into the facility. It is beautiful.
I also had a dream last night that every head coaching vacancy was filled. That is not true.
Wow.
But I don't know why, but I was waiting for you to tell me who all the head coaches were.
We don't really have head coaches yet, so still lots of open seats on that end. I also had a football dream last night. I was just like in the same place as Joe Burrow. That was it.
Wow. Sounds
We were like in a club. No.
Wow.
He was far off in the distance. He was singing karaoke or something.
Well, good for him. I bet he has a great voice.
Yeah. Oh, so we didn't even mention the man of the people, Trevor Lawrence, who spent his post-game at a Waffle House. Love that.
I like Trevor Lawrence.
Yep. And Zach Taylor, who spent his post-game doing what he did last year, which says brought him a lot of luck, which was delivering the game balls to the people of Cincinnati. He goes to a local bar close to the stadium after they play. If they win in the playoffs, he gives that bar the game ball.
Yeah, so I'll say this. I've been very outspoken against Zach Taylor. I think he's done a much better job this year managing the offense and the team as a whole. And I am starting to really come around and like him, especially when he does things like that. It's very hard to not like him.
It is.
And he's coaching better football. So
100%. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that football? We're going to get into our 15-second frenzy. It's going to be a lot quicker overall because we are down to only 6 games this past week. Give us the rules, Duncan.
15 seconds for each matchup. Ashley will tell me when I need to go on to the next matchup, and I can say whatever the heck I want.
Perfect. You ready?
I was born ready.
Awesome. 3, 2, 1, go.
Jaguars versus Chargers. Doug Peterson's 4th down call was absolutely incredible, and I don't think it's even getting enough attention as to what led to it. And I'll talk a little bit more about it afterward, but it was awesome. Chargers fired their OC. It should have been Staley that was gone because he blew it, and it was his fault that they didn't have Mike Williams. Niners versus Seahawks. It was a close game for like a hot second or a hot half. Then the Niners went back to just kind of playing like the juggernaut that they've been for the last roughly 8 weeks. Purdy didn't look particularly good in the first half, and that just goes to show like how good this team is and how deep they are because their quarterback kind of played poorly and they still won by a sizable margin. Bills versus Dolphins. This game was way closer than it should have been. Also, I don't know what Mike McDaniel was doing on that 4th down call, delay of game. There's a chance that he was high because he may or may not have been smoking a vape on the sideline. Good Lord. Oh my God, that was hard.
Next.
Giants versus Vikings. Best Giants game in the season offensively pretty easily. And I believe it was actually one of the best offensive performances of any offense this entire season by any team. But the Vikings are 27th in defensive DVOA and 28th in weighted DVOA, defensive DVOA.
Next.
Oh, gosh darn it. Bengals versus Ravens. Tyler Huntley, man, you don't reach for it on a QB sneak when you're out that far. You're almost a full yard away, and it's only 3rd down. If he kept the ball, he would have ended up in the end zone, and that's a 14-point swing in a really, really close game. It's just the wrong call, just an unintelligent play, low football IQ play.
Next.
And then finally, Cowboys versus Buccaneers. It's the only game I got wrong this week, and I was very, very wrong. Brady didn't look particularly good. That interception he had in the end zone when it was like 12-0 is one of the worst plays I think I've seen all season. I don't know what was going on. The wide receivers looked like they were in la la land, and Brady looked like he couldn't even get out of bounds. I don't know what's going on.
Yep. Do you know that was his 15-second frenzy is over, and we're going to spend some time talking about these games before we jump into this upcoming week. Did you know that was Brady's first red zone interception turnover since he was with the Patriots in 2019?
That is a shocking stat.
Right? So I was watching the game with people and they said the same thing. Like, I feel like I have to I'm not saying you're lying, but I feel like I have to fact check that one because it is a crazy stat. But in the red zone, that's the first time he's turned it over since 2019 with the Patriots.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I mean, I'm not surprised if it's going to be any quarterback. I'm not surprised it's Brady because he's just smart and he takes care of the ball. So if anyone's going to have that stat, I'm not shocked it's him. But wow, it's incredible that it actually happened.
Yeah. So I know there's like 2 games here, not much to talk about. Why don't we any extra thoughts, I should say, on Seahawks Niners?
I mean, not really. The Seahawks, they ran out of steam. I think everyone kind of saw this coming. It was definitely closer than I think most expected it to be after the first half. But then, in the second half, the Niners took over. The Seahawks just ran out of steam at the end of the season. They weren't good toward the down the stretch. They were a very, very good team, very solid team at the beginning of the season. And they couldn't keep up with it. But they've got to be the only team that's just not that upset, honestly, because this was never supposed to happen to begin with. They still have a top 5 pick. From their trade with Denver. And this is just not how it was supposed to go. So honestly, like if I'm a Seahawks fan, I'm fine. I'm happy with how it turns out. And I'm looking at the draft and I'm looking at all the game changes that you can get. I think the biggest question is just going to be, what do they do with Geno Smith? Is that their choice of quarterback? Or are they going to try and grab one of the, right now there's kind of 3 guys that are hovering near the top of the draft boards at quarterback. And then there's the 2 really, really awesome defensive linemen, Jalen Carter, and I want to say Will Anderson's the other one. Still learning all their names, but they're in a way they're guaranteed one of those guys. So it's just, do they want Geno Smith? Do they want to start building with a young quarterback now? That's going to be the big decision. Geno Smith said this week that he wants to retire a Seahawk. I don't know how feasible that is, but if he plays like this for the rest of his career, then great. But I don't know.
Yeah. I do want to say the 7 seed in the playoffs has never won a game. The Dolphins, this is a tweet quote, I should say, from right before this week, which said Dolphins and Seahawks are trying to do what's never been done in the NFL playoffs, win a playoff game as a 7 seed. 7 seeds before this weekend were 0-6 all time in the playoffs. The 1982 strike season had 8 teams per conference, and the NFL expanded to 7 teams / conference in 2020. So now 7 seeds are 0-8 in the playoffs.
Yeah, and also their the point differential is very, very bad. It's like negative 100 or something.
Yep.
I don't have that stat in front of me, but it's very, very bad.
Yep. So since we're talking about 7 seeds, Dolphins, Bills, we didn't get that one right. I mean, we got the game right. You and I had the same picks last week. We both went 5-1. That was just a scare by Miami, which started right before the end of the first half and did not stop until the game clock had 0-0.
What blows my mind is Skylar Thompson didn't even play well.
No.
He was playing pretty poorly. He played exactly how you expected. I watched that whole game. I sat there watching it with my dad, and I have no clue how the game was that close, other than like the Bills just kind of shooting themselves in the foot over and over and over, which, like I said, that's kind of what scared me about them leading into the playoffs at the end of the season. Josh Allen was making a lot of mistakes. This team had not been playing disciplined, game-winning football in the playoffs, and that's what it seemed like. You shouldn't be losing that close to a team with their third string quarterback that's built the way Miami is. San Francisco is one thing, but
Another close game this past weekend was Ravens-Bengals, which was closer again than most people predicted. In typical wildcard weekend fashion, these games are closer and a lot crazier than you expect. You could imagine them being crazy, and they're crazier than you could imagine. So this was one that was a lot crazier with no Lamar Jackson. The Ravens make some bonehead moves on the field. One that you mentioned, which was the QB sneak from 2 yards away by Huntley, who then, it was so clearly a turnover, who then tried to plead with the judges that he broke the plane and was still about a yard away from the plane. The person who picked it up or got it ended up having to be on oxygen. Yes. He had an oxygen mask after. Yeah, because he ran almost one of the longest fumble recoveries in NFL playoff history. I'm not quite sure.
No, playoff history. I believe it was the third longest in playoff history.
Yep. So that was something. The Ravens definitely put up a bigger fight than expected, and I think this team does have a future to look forward to, but there are so many question marks with their future. Any thoughts on the game as a whole on either side of the ball?
I mean, the Bengals didn't really do anything to make me worried about them or impress me. I kind of said, I think I said this last week, like, it's a divisional game. It's going to be weird. It's what happens when you're so familiar with a team. So it was closer. And honestly, if Tyler Huntley didn't do what he did, there's a chance they win that game. I could harp on that all day because it's a thing where if you had any veteran quarterback in there, they're not doing that. First of all, it's third down. You never reach on third down because you still have another down to get it. And that's also just not how you play a quarterback sneak. Unless you're like right on top of the goal line. He was a full yard away. This was not in inches. This was 1 full yard away. And when he reached out, he was still half a yard short. It was just a very, very dumb play, honestly.
When does the New Heights recent episode podcast come out? Because I'd love to hear.
Today. They talked about it. Yeah.
Okay. I haven't listened to today's yet because I would love to hear Jason Kelsey talk about that QB sneak. Yeah.
Well, so one of the things he pointed out is if he had just held the ball and not reached over it, it would have been a touchdown. He ended up in the end zone.
Yep.
It's very just poor. But honestly, what concerns me more about this Ravens team, and I've long been a John Harbaugh fan. He's from Philly, and this team has just been always so consistently good. This is probably the worst I've felt about them in a long time because you've got J.K. Dobbins speaking out after the game. He's pissed that he didn't get the ball. There's questions around Greg Roman, their offensive coordinator, which I don't think we've heard anything like solid about yet. There's Lamar Jackson and everyone coming out and giving their opinions on him. You've got Mike Vick saying that he should have been playing and that Mike Vick played with a MCL sprain, which is very different than a PCL sprain,
Yep.
which is what Lamar has. And then you've got RG3 saying he did the right thing. I ruined my career because I did it in a playoff
And showed
game.
a picture of it.
No, I remember. I did not need to see the picture to be reminded of that.
I know.
Very
But he
vividly.
did post it with a picture.
Yes, he did. Drive the point home. And then you just got you and I talked about this privately. I didn't realize there were so many people that thought that he wasn't playing because of his contract or lack thereof. But we both know individuals that do feel that way, and I think that's very stupid. First of all, but this team has a lot of question marks, and for the first time in a very long time, I don't think they have a very clear direction in terms of the way their roster is being built, because there are legitimate concerns that Lamar Jackson is going to walk in free agency. And it's not very often that you see a young, a literal MVP quarterback off his rookie deal reach free agency. You just don't see that. And that's maybe what is about to happen. I'd still bet against it, but hey, it's possible. So.
I think the J.K. Dobbins comments for me were a symptom of a larger issue. And I think that helps paint a fuller picture on kind of what I think just has the Ravens fan base and organization is feeling as a whole, especially because you made the statement that, if you had a more veteran quarterback in there, that mistake wouldn't happen. But you have someone like J.K. Dobbins who does have more experience, just publicly coming out and saying these things and saying, I could have, I've been here for years, I could have done it. And like I said, I just think it's a symptom that there is something brewing in this Ravens organization, and it's either going to turn into something that is a crazy story and comes out on top, or this is the start of a Ravens decade of failure.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah. Let's do. I don't think I had any more statements on them. I just wanted to double check. Let's talk about Chargers Jaguars. Let's do it. The craziest game this week. I think
Doug Peterson is a god.
I'm
so angry, and I hope FanDuel hears this because I'm pissed. So I placed a bet before the game on the Jaguars because I love Doug, and I was very confident that they'd win. And you didn't believe me when I texted you this after the game. But I said, would you believe me if I was never worried? There was not a point in time that I thought that the Jaguars weren't going to make it a game. I didn't know if they'd win after halftime, but I was very determined in the fact that they weren't going to go out like this. And I actually put a bet on the Jaguars to win for very, very good odds, very, very good money at halftime when they were down 27-0, or whatever the halftime score was. I think it might have been 27-7 by that point, but I don't know.
27-3, I think. Oh,
okay, there we go. And it didn't go through, and I didn't realize that until after the game, so I was very disappointed. I probably did something wrong, but I'm still pissed at FanDuel. But yeah, Doug Peterson's awesome. I want to talk in particular about that fourth down call, because the series of events that led to it and its success was so cool. So for those of you that weren't watching, this was the final drive of the game. I think they were around the 50-yard line, and they go out there on fourth down, and they look like they're getting set up for a QB sneak, 4th and 1. They get to the line, and obviously they had a kill. So Trevor Lawrence calls the kill. He pivots to whatever the backup call was. We don't know what it was. Could have been a run up the middle. Could have been a pass. Who knows? They killed the QB sneak. Doug Peterson hears the kill, must have immediately realized that whatever their kill call was not going to succeed against the defense. Sprints down the field, calls a timeout. Okay, cool. They go to the sideline, and then they go back out, and they're set up again for the QB sneak. Everyone and their mother is thinking, okay, Doug was like, no, Trevor, we're not QB sneaking it, you idiot. Like, just stay with the QB sneak. And then does one of the coolest things I think I've ever seen on that kind of call. Big surprise, Doug Peterson with a big call on fourth down to win a game. It's not a QB sneak, but it's actually it's an outside run to Travis Etienne around the outside, and there's just no one there because everyone is thinking it's QB sneak. He gets a first down easy. He gets a lot of yards to get a very easy field goal set up. And it was just awesome. It was a very ballsy call. And I love Doug Peterson for it. He's such a good coach. And the fact that Trevor Lawrence could have 4 picks in the first half of which weren't really his fault.
Yep.
And he came out slinging it. Doug Peterson was not afraid. Like, this man does not coach afraid. His players don't play afraid, and his team fights for him, and they love him. And
They do.
I love Doug Peterson. There was never a doubt in my mind,
Yep.
up until maybe halftime, that they weren't going to win this game. They were going to win. I thought it all week, and the fact that they did it like this in the 3rd largest comeback in NFL playoff history is ridiculous. I love it.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty crazy. And we talk a lot about how these guys they're not robots. Like, mind games work in this league. You have to do some sort of psyop, and that's what that 4th down felt like, because you're set up for QB sneak, you kill it, right? So now the coach calls a timeout, and you're on the other side of the ball on the defense thinking, obviously this coach wants what he had. Like you said, you're just going to run the QB sneak. If they would have done, if Trevor Lawrence didn't call kill, they would have done the QB sneak. So now he called kill. We're back in the QB sneak form. He's obviously doing it. Like, he didn't want to. Doug's making him. And that's the mind games that goes on in football. It's not just the trash talk that gets to people. It's just these minor tweaks and adjustments and putting someone in motion that's not normally in motion. And that 4th down call was like written to a T of a way to play mind games on a defense, and it worked out perfectly for them. It was a crazy one. The Jags win over the Chargers was the 3rd time this season that they were trailing by 17 points or more and came back to win. It was against the Raiders in week 9 and the Cowboys in week 15. Yep, week 15. So that's the 3rd time they've come back from 17 deficits. Overall, what a win for the Jags. We have 2 left to talk about. We can talk about Giants versus Vikings. I'm going to kind of touch on it a little bit more after. Is there anything you want to add before we move on to the last one?
Yeah, the Vikings were frauds all season.
Frauds.
And I don't know, this shouldn't really be surprising to anyone, to be honest. Their defense was hilariously bad for a 13-win season. They were 28th in weighted DVOA, and weighted DVOA just means that it takes into account the more recent performances, more so than the beginning of the season, to see the growth, or the opposite of growth, as the season goes on. The Vikings were just hilariously bad. So
yeah, really, really bad one. And then the last one is the Cowboys Buccaneers. Like you said, this is another one where there's not too much to talk about, but there is an interesting stat I did want to mention. The NFL point after average this year is 94.6%. The chances of missing 4 in a row are 0.0008%, or 125,000 to 1. And if you bet on that, congratulations, you're a millionaire, because Brent Maher missed 4 in a row, 4 point afters in a row. He's just lucky that this wasn't a close game, because that would come back to bite him so bad. They kept letting him try. Everyone's sitting here, go for 2, go for 2. The coach is on the sideline. If you didn't know how to read lips, you could still read his lips, because he's over there. There's coaches on the sidelines cursing. Dak Prescott's throwing his helmet, yelling, why don't we just go for 2? It was a total disaster on that front. The Cowboys do plan to stick with Maher, but plan to sign Tristan Vizcaino, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, to the practice squad, and are using the word insurance. So they're putting him on the practice squad as insurance if this comes down to a close game and they need to actually kick it and they don't feel comfortable putting it in Maher's feet.
Nice.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I agreed with continuing to let him kick.
Yeah.
Because I think I'd rather him go 1-5 than 0-4.
Yep.
I mean, it sounds obvious, but like, I'd rather just let him see it go. Like, it's like with a basketball, like a streaky 3-point shooter. Sometimes you just got to see it go through the hoop once, even if it's a free throw, and that fixes it. I just wanted to see him put it through the uprights, and hopefully that fixes it. But that was hilarious to watch. It didn't matter at all.
No.
But it was really funny to watch.
It was also really hilarious watching Peyton and Eli's reaction to every last one of them, because we had our last Manning cast of the season. On the 3rd missed one, Peyton got up, walked out of frame, and almost threw his football at the TV. It was pretty entertaining. But yeah, it was fun. The one comment I saw online, which I've sat with and kind of sticks with me, is the Dak Prescott throwing his helmet and cursing and having outrage on the sideline. Obviously, you're upset if your kicker is missing extra points after you're scoring touchdowns. But this tweet said, "Where was this outrage from Maher when Dak Prescott was throwing 5 interceptions a game?"
Dak sucks.
Yeah,
I don't like that.
No. So I agree with that, and that's just something I wanted to leave there because I thought it was a very interesting point.
Yeah, it's not like it's a close game, dude. Like, yeah. I get it. Be upset. That's fine.
Yeah.
That level of upset is completely totally ridiculous. Come on.
Yep.
Like, come on. Yeah.
We didn't mention the level of outrage from Joey Bosa.
Oh.
After the Chargers.
Do you understand why he didn't get ejected? Because I don't.
No.
He had 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why, but he's got to calm the F down.
Yep. He, at one point, it was during one of those penalties, he was talking with the ref. He says the ref chased after him to give him a penalty or whatever. He threw his helmet like so hard to the ground that it probably left a dent on the ground. And then Staley picked it up and tried to hand it back to him. He took it out of Staley's hands and then threw it on the ground again. So Joey Bosa was having an emotional night.
Sorry, I'm trying to see if I can figure out why he didn't get ejected.
Yeah. Well, while you do that, I'll start transitioning into our divisional matchups. Some notes before we jump into it. Oh, there's 2 more things I want to talk about first. One is that we still have not seen the new overtime rules in action. The start of wildcard weekend was when the new overtime rules were enacted and put into motion, where it guarantees both teams will be able to touch the ball in a overtime situation. It's still up for grabs if we're going to be able to see it this season, this postseason. But we still haven't seen it yet, and it's intriguing because we all want to see how it works out. But the only other one, while you're still looking for that I wanted to mention, is the expedited review that the NFL was rolling out this past week. It worked to a T, in my opinion. It didn't hinder the flow of the game. They were able to adjust calls that were called that shouldn't have. And overall, I felt like it gave the refs accountability more than we've seen in the past because they had somebody else quickly monitoring what they were doing and making sure that the right call was on the field. And we didn't have situations where a lot of teams can look back and be like, that one wrong call cost us this. I think expedited review is helping do away with that. And I really hope it sticks around for at least at this capacity for a while, because this is, I think, a great way to do it.
I agree. I couldn't find an answer, by the way, but I do agree that expedited review is something that I was pleasantly surprised by this weekend.
Yes.
I think they just need to. I would dial it up to 100 immediately. Yeah. I just dial. Look, I love the XFL. Everyone knows that. Mm-hmm. Season 2 coming soon. Technically season 3, but one thing they did really well was the reffing reviews. Like they made it very easy for everyone at home to see and hear what was happening and being discussed, and it was always quick, and it was not bad TV, unlike the NFL is every time there's any penalty or non-penalty. Also, I just want to mention with Joey Bosa, I think it's hilarious that he got so angry over a false start not being called, because it literally happens all the time. Yeah, like it's one of the it's stupid, but also there's certain things in football that just aren't called.
Yes. And that happens too, because when the ref is looking at the ball, he has to look at the ball, look up at the play clock to see 0, and then look back down at the ball in order to call it a delay game. So, and the same thing with false start. Like they have to, there's so much going on. It doesn't get called all the time.
Well, with the false starts, it's like, it's not like these blatantly obvious ones. It's the ones that are like 2 frames prior to the ball. Like it's basically so good. It's almost impossible to like call it. The Eagles have had a tackle doing that for the past decade and a half. First with Jason Peters, now with Lane Johnson. If you're good at it, you're good at it, and it doesn't get called, and it is what it is.
It's like in Mario Kart when you
did you just say you said Mario?
Yes,
it's Mario.
You yell at me all the time. That's
because Mario isn't his name.
It's how I say it.
It's the wrong way to say it.
Okay, in Mario Kart.
Thank you.
When you
What game
hit
is
the
Mario?
go, but the accelerate button on like 2.5, and you just get off just a smidge faster than everyone else. You don't wait till 3. You know, it's that. And
It's
as
a
long as you're good
me,
at it, you can really do that.
Mario. See,
That was a
not
pretty good
it's a
impression.
me, Mario. That sounds stupid.
Anyway,
One of them is his name.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, well, that's one of my
Jeez.
big. You sound like a middle-aged mother.
No, I
He was
don't.
like, "Oh, you get that new Mario game?" It's like, "Oh, I got you the Mario," and they hand you like Pikmin 3. I'm playing Pikmin. I don't know.
Okay.
It pisses me off.
Either way, let's transition into the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. So, 2 quick fun facts here. All 8 starting quarterbacks in the divisional round this year are under the age of 30. That is the first time it has happened since the 2004-2005 season. And it helps to kind of rein in this idea that this is a new era of football. And a lot of these older guys are going to have to keep contending with these young guys because all under the age of 30 here. And there are the 3 NFC East teams who made the playoffs are now the 3 out of 4 teams remaining in the NFC, the outlier being the Niners. And this hasn't happened, I believe, since
they moved to 4 divisions per conference.
There we go. Perfect. All right, so I know what we're waiting for, what everyone's waiting for is the Giants-Eagles preview from us, but we're going to keep that one for last. So why don't we start... You know what? You pick one.
Let's go backwards actually.
Okay.
If we're doing backwards. Let's do Cowboys at Niners.
All right. Perfect. So the Cowboys' current Super Bowl odds are at plus 850, and the Niners' current Super Bowl odds are at plus 450. This game will be at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time on Sunday. It's going to be broadcast at Fox from the Niners Stadium. The spread is that San Francisco is 4-point favorites and the over-under is 46. What we're kind of going to take a little bit from what we did last week. We're going to talk about some weaknesses and their key to success, but give us your general idea on how this matchup's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that the line isn't bigger because I think these, outside of the Eagles, I think these are the 2 best teams in the NFC. Mm-hmm. I think it was always going to come down to one of these 2 versus the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. That's still my thought, but that's what I thought before the playoffs even started. But really, it feels weird to say because one of them has, like, I think the weaknesses on both teams, to be honest, is probably the quarterback. Like, Dak had a great week last week, and that's awesome. He was god-awful to end this season. He was just not good. He threw way too many turnovers.
He missed 5 weeks and had the most turnovers in the NFL.
Yeah. And to go along with that, like, Tampa Bay, their defense was 25th in weighted DVOA. So toward the end of the season, like they were banged up. They were not good. Like it was not. It's not impressive that Dak did what he did against a team that like Ben Solak, who is a former Eagles writer. He writes for the Ringer now. Ringer, yeah. I think he put it very intelligently in a tweet, which was something that I feel like is being overlooked prior to the Cowboys and Buccaneers game was that the Cowboys have been a very good team all season and the Buccaneers have been a very bad team all season.
Yes,
that's accurate. And I was one of those people that said I thought the Bucs were going to win, but that is a very simple way of putting it. The Cowboys were a very good team all season and the Bucs weren't. The Cowboys should have won that game in decisive fashion. That's what it should have been. This is not that game anymore. Brock Purdy is now going to have to play a real defense, one of the best defenses in the league. You know, the Seahawks are decent. They were not they're not a top 10 defense. Dallas is a top 10 defense, and they have been all season.
Yeah.
And
Dallas has the most takeovers on defense. Takeaways, not turnovers.
For a second, I thought we were playing like NFL Street or something.
No, I was I combined 2 words, but the Cowboys defense had the most takeaways this season.
Yeah, and like this is when the test really starts for me for Brock Purdy because he's a 7th round rookie quarterback playing in the postseason. Yeah. And he can afford to play somewhat poorly against a team like the Seattle Seahawks. I don't think he can afford to do it either this week or next week if he plays the Eagles against another really, really good defense that is going to take advantage of it. So yeah, I honestly, I think the weaknesses on both are first and foremost Dak and Brock Purdy. Dak, because he just hasn't been good this season and he hasn't been able to get comfortable in the pocket. And I think Nick Bosa is incredible and the Cowboys offensive line is not. that's a major mismatch right there. And Nick Bosa should make life hell for Dak this week. And I think if the Cowboys want to win, they need to get to Brock Purdy and they need to get him under pressure, which the Seahawks weren't. They were able to do it somewhat, but not really to the extent that the Cowboys should be able to. And if Brock Purdy plays how he did last week against a much better defense, the Cowboys stand a chance.
Yes. So I kept with you. I think Brock Purdy got a little bit more credit than he was due this past week because they called a lot of his risky throws as really great throws. You know, he threaded that needle. He was very accurate. There was the one longer throw where he threw it into double coverage, and that was luck. Like it's a lot of football comes down to luck. And yes, he was accurate, but it was an incredibly risky throw. So I think some of these risky throws are getting lumped in with the, he's just so smart and just so good, when I think some of them are just really risky, really lucky plays.
And he was not accurate the majority of this past weekend.
Yes.
He had a lot of inaccurate throws.
Exactly. So I do want to just point out that, yes, this is not me putting down Brock Purdy. It's just that I think we have to really analyze his gameplay to say, he has to play smart football, because against a Cowboys defense, playing fast and loose is your key to losing. That's the best way to put it. And for me, the only other weakness I had for the Cowboys is their run defense. Again, someone like Christian McCaffrey and this incredibly dynamic Niners offense, who they would throw George Kittle in rushing if they wanted to. Having a run defense that has allowed 125 rushing yards per game, which is very low. What was the exact 22nd in the NFL this year? I think that run defense is going to be something the Niners are going to try and target, especially because both of these defenses are just so good. So finding any way to exploit it is your key to success.
Yep, agreed.
Awesome. So we will go into our Sunday earlier slate game. Oh, wait, we didn't pick our winners. Who's your winner?
Niners.
I agree. All right, so our Sunday early afternoon game is the Bengals at the Bills at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, being broadcast on CBS. The Bengals' current Super Bowl odds are at plus 750, and the Bills' current Super Bowl odds are at plus 330. The line is that Buffalo is favored at 5.5 points, and the over-under is 48. What are your thoughts, Mr. Duncan?
My first thought is that I feel like the Bengals are a pretty decent bet right now to make the Super Bowl. Plus 750. Yeah. That's interesting. I would have expected them to have a higher odds, but yeah, I mean, I really like the Bills. I'm a closeted Bills fan. I always have been.
Yep.
Josh Allen, he just hasn't been good. He's been good. He hasn't been great. He's been not good for him. And there's a distinction there. There's a line. He's an elite tier quarterback in the NFL, but he has not been playing like that. Or at least that's not what it feels like. I mean, sometimes he makes these throws and it's just like, wow, holy crap. Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis occasionally. But I just don't know if that's going to be enough this week against a Bengals team that is going to be able to keep up with them. And their defense has been pretty good through this season, a little off and on, but they're 11th in weighted DVOA and 11th in DVOA. They've been very consistent the whole season. I don't know. It's tough for me because I really like this Bills team and they just haven't been playing up to my expectations, and that makes it hard to
confidently pick them.
Yeah. But then again, their defense has been solid. They've been very solid. Not as good as they were last year, but still like pretty good. A little worse off at the end of the season, and I think they're going to need to be able to pressure the quarterback. They're going to need to be able to get after Joe Burrow and take advantage of their banged up offensive line if they want to win this game. So I think I
agree with you,
and not turning the ball over and giving Joe Burrow more chances.
Exactly. Yeah, for me, the Bengals' weakness lies within that offensive line. The Bills' pass rush will always be a little bit scary. So I just don't know how that offensive line is going to hold up. And I know that offensive line and Joe Burrow have adapted to it. I mean, compared to the start of this season, the entirety of last season, it's better than it looks. But going up a Bills team that has some stars. That's going to be the key thing to watch for me, is seeing that Joe Burrow is having enough time to throw it long, which is, goes hand in hand with the Bills' weakness, is that one of their weaknesses is the secondary. The secondary allowed way too much to happen in the game against the Dolphins. So if the Bengals can stiffen up their offensive line a little bit and give Joe Burrow a little bit of time, he can exploit that weakness of the Bills. And like you said, I think it's just Josh Allen's turn. I think this game is going to come down to a turnover. I don't know who I really don't have one that I want to win. I am like you. I do love the Bills. I love the story. And this is going to be an emotional game for them. This is the team they played when Damar Hamlin went down and needed CPR on the field. But I don't know that at this point I can fully trust Josh Allen. He has regressed a little bit, and the turnovers have been pretty deadly for that team this year.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Bengals.
That's what I'm leaning. That I don't know. I think
I want to be wrong, but I'm going to pick the Bengals.
Yeah,
I want the Bills to win.
I think that's what I'm going to go with too. I think
Happier.
the Bills may do it, but that's the one I didn't have an answer for. The other ones I had picked, but this is the one I don't have an answer for. I think it's going to be a very close game. I think the spread does reflect it pretty good. I think the spread has it right. And I'm going to go with the Bengals. Crazy. But
all right,
let's talk about our Saturday early matchup, which is at 4:30 and being broadcast on NBC, and that would be the Jaguars heading to the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium. The Jaguars Super Bowl odds are at plus 3,300. The Chiefs Super Bowl odds are the best at plus 300. The line has Kansas City as 8.5-point favorites, and the over-under is at 53. The Chiefs did play the Jags earlier in the season at the final score was 27-17, and in the time they met, the Jaguars had only had 3 wins all season. So these are very different teams than what we saw when they had their last matchup. But you want to jump in and tell us a little bit what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I love Doug Peterson and I love Jacksonville.
Do you want to read that quote I put in there?
Yeah. So it's this was Doug this past, after the game. Whether it's house money or our money, we're here. And he's right. They are here. And if I'm going to bet on any team to make a miracle run to the Super Bowl, it's probably the Jaguars. That being said, I don't expect them to win this game.
No.
Their defense is just, at the end of the day, it's not really that good. And I think you can get away with it a little bit with the Chargers. And first of all, they were banged up. And second of all, they just haven't been a great offense comparatively to probably what they should have been this season. The Chiefs, you cannot say that about because they have been the number one offensive DVOA now, and they have the number one weighted, which means even recently. So that's a matchup in Kansas City's favor. Not to mention that they have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. That's another matchup in Kansas City's favor. I mean, Kansas City's defense has been about league average this season.
Nothing spectacular.
I think it's going to be a shootout.
Yes.
I think the Jags are going to keep it close. Maybe they cover the 8.5. But I'm going to take Kansas City. Because first of all, if Trevor Lawrence has the turnover problems that he did last week, you're giving Patrick Mahomes too many opportunities. And it just comes down to that defense. And I don't think they're going to be able to slow down Mahomes.
And I did want to point out, you and I had talked about this pre-show, is that in the 4 seasons that Andy Reid has had Mahomes as his starting quarterback, they have made the AFC championship at the minimum, the Super Bowl after that.
There are so many easier ways you could have said that.
Yeah,
I swear to God, you picked
I don't know how that happened because I have it written right, but my show sheet I wasn't on my show sheet when I started talking about it. But so they every time Mahomes has been starting, they reach at least the AFC championship. So
much better.
He's a star. I think it's just the best way to put it.
Yes.
I think he's really hard to beat. And keeping the turnovers to a minimum are how the Jags are gonna take a stand. The Chiefs' weakness, like you said, is the defense. They've been average at best and at times worse. So they just the defense is nothing to look and be happy about. And against a team with Doug Peterson leading it, and someone like Trevor Lawrence, who and Trevor Lawrence has never lost a game on a Saturday. Forgot about that.
I know.
And this is a Saturday game. Forgot about that. Yeah.
Someone pointed that out to me before the game on Saturday.
On the last Saturday. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yep. So he has not lost on a Saturday in his
So
career.
one of two streaks will be broken. Patrick
Yep.
Mahomes making the AFC Championship or Trevor Lawrence never losing on a Saturday.
Yeah. I do want to say the Jags defense has only allowed an average of 16.3 points per game over the last 3 games. So the Jags defense has been better. They've been stepping it up. On paper, I should say, they've been doing better.
I don't even think that's true. I mean, their weighted DVOA is still terrible. And look at their opponents. They had the Titans with Josh Dobbs starting. They had the Texans, and they had the Jets. And then the week before that, like that was the 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Or with the Chargers. And then which they gave up 30 points. They gave up 34 to the Cowboys the week before that, 22 to the Titans, 40 to the Lions, 27 to the Ravens, 27 to the Chiefs.
Yeah, and that's the context behind it, which is what I was going to say. It was not a lot. It wasn't powerhouse heavy teams. So I think they're going to be able to take some points away from Patrick Mahomes, but I don't think it's going to be enough to get them the win. I would love to see this Jaguars team go further than this round, but I don't think they escape it.
No, and I mean, Doug Peterson said it. I think it is house money.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was able to take a team that had the number 1 overall pick for 2 years in a row to then make it to the second round of the playoffs is incredible in itself. So.
Yeah, I can't wait to do a postseason debrief on this Jaguars team because we hyped them up a lot more than most. The decisions that the owners, Doug Peterson, Shad Khan, made at the beginning of the season. I'm excited to do a debrief on this team and talk about what went right here.
I just want to talk about Doug.
I know.
I love it.
And speaking about house money, another one that people are saying is playing with house money, that is the New York Giants, who are heading to Philadelphia to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. That will be at 8:15 Eastern Standard Time, broadcast on Fox. What?
That's a mistake by the NFL, man.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Yeah. On a Saturday night in Philly? You are daring an entire city to drink for 12 hours before the game starts. Why would you do that? They don't even have to go to work the next day.
Yep. Against a division rival.
Why? I don't know why you do it.
It's what, and a division rival that will also is within an hour driving distance. So you're getting everyone, and you're booking it at 8:15 on Saturday. So
if there's ever going to be a day where you're going to get a lot of bad stories to ruin Philadelphia's reputation, it's going to be this weekend because you're right. This isn't the Niners they have to fly across the country. Like if Giants fans want to go to this game, they will.
They're going to.
They're not going to take over, but there's going to be enough of them for people to get in fights with.
Yep,
and they're going to be drinking for 12 hours.
Yep, and Brian Daboll did have something to say about that. He was asked in his presser today if he could, describe what going into Philadelphia feels like, and he only gave us a one-word answer, which was hostile. He expects it to be a hostile environment.
Do you think other head coaches get asked that about other stadiums, or is it just Philadelphia?
I think maybe a division rival here and there, but it's probably mostly about Philadelphia.
I hate the media.
Yeah. Either way, the Giants' current Super Bowl odds are at plus 2,500. The Eagles' current Super Bowl odds are at plus 500. The spread has been moving around a little bit, but at the time of writing the show sheet, which was this morning, the Eagles were 7.5 point favorites, and the over-under is slated at 48.5. How do you want to do this? Because I know we both have so much to talk about.
Where's the half?
What? Oh, I was reading it wrong. 48 is the over-under. My apologies. I was still looking at the spread.
How do you read?
I don't know. Fast.
I'm just sitting here staring at it, looking for this half point that you got from somewhere.
I read too fast, and then I threw the half onto the 48.
Yes.
Either way, for those who are just starting to be fans of the Undroppables Playbook, I am a born and bred New York Giants fan, and Duncan is a Philadelphia fan. Gross through and through.
I'm not the one who said I was born and bred. That's the same thing.
No, born and raised, whatever.
Yeah, and you're calling me gross.
No, well,
you said ew.
So. Yeah, ew, Philadelphia. Anyway, how do you want to go about this? I know we both have a lot to talk about here.
I mean, the over-under is the same amount of points that the Eagles put up alone against their first matchup against the Giants this season, 48. Mm-hmm. So that's fun.
Yeah, very fun. I do want to point out that neither of our who was out that game, because I had it written down. I know that Xavier McKinney, Andy Dory Jackson did not play in either game against the Eagles. I think that is a big thing to note, that the defense was definitely not firing on all cylinders with 2 of their stars out. So
just go ahead and just you purposely hid your notes away from me. So
I did.
You're excited about.
I did. I'm so excited. Listen, I'm pumped about this team. I think it's another one that you could steal Doug Peterson's quote for. This Giants team wasn't expected to be here, and here they are. They've been through a lot over the past decade, and seeing this team make a turnaround like this in one season was incredible. The Giants, huge win against the Vikings. They held Justin Jefferson to 47 yards, which I think is a good sign going into Philadelphia. Having 2 star receivers there, it is definitely different than just having Justin Jefferson on a team. But the defense was working. And the offense is what was the star of the show. Giants staff schemed to the strengths of this team, to the talent that this team has. They let DJ run it when he had no options instead of forcing it like he used to. They got the ball out quick, and it worked. The Giants had 100% series conversion rate when they started with a pass. A series conversion rate is a rate at which the series starts on first downs and earns another first down or a touchdown in that series. When they passed first, it was 100%. When they ran first, it was 76.8, so 90.3% completion. Series conversion rate. The team, the players are playing for each other. I think it's really cool to see what's been going on in that locker room. Kenny Golladay, his block, fantastic. They're saying you can't catch a pass, but you can still go out on that field and block. That last game made me feel a lot more confident going into this week. It was a very fast-paced, high-powered offense, and dug into their bag of tricks. No-look passes from Daniel Jones, which usually just means he doesn't look downfield and just throws it to the other team, but this is more of I'm Patrick Mahomes no-look throw type throws from him. They pulled out a Statue of Liberty play call. I love this Giants team.
Do you think they're going to win?
Yes.
I was wondering if you'd have the courage to actually say that.
Yes, I do.
No, they're going to lose. I'm not even worried.
Okay. Giants going to win.
The Giants, Stevie OA, weighted for defense 29th. And that's including, that is including the postseason. They're not good on defense. They're not very good. And if Jalen Hurts even looks like sort of a healthy version of himself, it's not going to be close. The part that's scary, I guess, is the Giants offense, which has been better. Their receivers are playing in the positions that they should be playing in. It's just, they're playing in positions that make sense, and Brian Dable's using them correctly. He's putting them in positions to succeed. Saquon Barkley's great. Daniel Jones has been playing very well, but this is not the Vikings defense. The Vikings, so it's another Ben Solak thing. We've talked a lot about how the Giants do not have a lot of talent on their roster, and I agree, they don't. No. Brian Dable has been doing an incredible job. If you look at the Giants offense versus the Vikings defense, and you said, what is the talent level of both of those? It's not even close. The Giants are more talented. That's how bad the Vikings defense is. So if Daniel Jones wants to go out there and look like Vanilla Vic against that defense, that's great. We just put up 70 sacks in a season, which is the 3rd most all time and the most in the NFL. We have 4 10-sack players. We have 2 cornerbacks that are, I think one of them made the All-Pro list, and the other, I think Bradbury actually made the All-Pro list. Yeah, Bradbury made 2nd team All-Pro. Darius Slay made the Players All-Pro. CJ Gardner-Johnson's back. The only downside is we're going to not have Avonte Maddox, it sounds like.
Yeah.
This defense is just about as polar opposite as you can possibly get. The one thing I will say that I think is in the Giants' advantage is the fact that Daniel Jones and that offense, they don't have an issue taking what the defense gives them. So if Jonathan Gannon chooses to do what he does sometimes, which is let players complete 90% of their passes against them as they dink and dunk their way down the field, the Giants are totally okay with doing that. So from the defensive side of the ball, it depends on how Jonathan Gannon wants to play it, but at the very least, your offensive line might be better than it's been in a while, but it's still not good. Evan Neal is terrible. And who's your left tackle? I'm blanking.
Andrew Thomas.
I knew it was Andrew something. I wanted to say Whitworth, but I knew that wasn't right.
Yes.
Andrew Thomas, did he make the All-Pro?
I believe so.
Yeah, he had a really good season.
Yes.
Josh Sweat made him look like he was a college player when they
Mm-hmm.
played in whatever week that was. Not week 18. The defense has so much talent, and then I haven't even started on the offense. Jalen Hurts is not 100%. That's going to be a thing. Lane Johnson is not 100%. That is scary. Lane Johnson not being 100% is very scary because he's the best, I think, tackle in all of football, and he has been for about 2 seasons. And that's going to be the big question is what they do about Kayvon Thibodeau and Leonard Williams.
Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah, well, Dexter Lawrence.
Dexy.
Well, that's Jason Kelsey, who is now a 5-time All-Pro. Dexter Lawrence is really good. He had an All-Pro season. I'm just not that worried about him because we have Jason Kelsey and we have Landon Dickerson. And if Jalen Hurts can run, it's not going to be close because Wink Martindale, there's not a lot he can do because of the lack of talent. I'm not worried about the cornerback position because with Justin Jefferson, what they were doing a lot of is they were kind of sticking a safety on him to start the play while also having a man cover him. Like the
announcers like to call it bracketing. They were bracketing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they bracketed. They did some other more creative stuff, which I think was actually really interesting. You can't do that against the Eagles. You can't, because if you do it to AJ Brown, Devontae Smith will destroy you.
Yes.
I can't imagine you'd want to do it to Devontae Smith because then you have AJ Brown. And if you want to somehow take both of them out of the equation, oh look, it's Dallas Goedert. You've got Quez Watkins and you've got the running game. If you're playing a zone to have eyes on Jalen Hurts, then you're going to have guys that are finding the holes in the zone. If you're playing man, then Jalen Hurts can kill you with his legs. The way the Giants win the game is if Jalen Hurts is not healthy and he doesn't look healthy. He didn't play like he was healthy in week 18. I think part of that was by design. If he goes out there and they are not able to use the RPO running game and they're not able to use his legs in the way that he has most of the season, like playing through pain or not, if they can't use him like that, then the Eagles offense is going to be in trouble. That being said, they can still win because he's been a much better passer, but that's the scary thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think both teams definitely have a lot of weaknesses that the other matches up really well with. You know, having a player like Evan Neal, the Eagles have an answer for that. And like you said, divisional games are weird. You know the teams way more than you would know anyone else playing. I do think the Giants walk away with this one. And that is a lot coming from me being a Giants fan. I will admit to that. Like, I know this Eagles team is good. This Eagles team is scary. It's not someone I want to play, let alone play in Philadelphia.
Wait, I have a few more stats. Sorry.
Okay.
24 of the last 30 matchups have been Eagles wins. We are currently
haven't won in Philadelphia since 2013.
I'm talking. Excuse
you. I was talking. You cut me off for your stats.
Well, yes, I am.
Double standard, man.
I'll mute you. I can do that. I can cut you off. I can just take you off the program. And no, I cut you off because I didn't want to get too far away with it and then come back. A 9-game home win streak. It's been 10 games since the last time you won in Philadelphia. This will be your 3rd straight road game, which are notoriously very, 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 very bad for winning. And you're also on a short week in a 6-day week, whereas the Eagles have had a full week of rest.
Giants have the vibes, man.
And the Eagles don't.
No.
You've seen Jalen Hurts, right?
I have.
And Giants you've loved him all season.
I have.
Look, I was with you on the vibes until Kayvon Thibodeau was doing...
Giants have the vibe.
They don't. Hold on. You need to be real with yourself for a second. The Giants' vibes are not significantly better than the Eagles' vibes. I don't even know if they're better.
I think they are.
I think you're lying to yourself.
Okay. Let me be delusional. I don't care.
You are delusional. Okay. As long as you know. That's all that matters.
By me. I do have some fun facts here. The one I mentioned last week. Since 97, I think the Giants win one game. If they win the first game, they end up going to the Super Bowl. I also really love the stat that in 6 games against number 1 seed, the Giants, since the playoffs restructuring in 1990, the Giants are a perfect 6-0. That 6-game win streak versus the number 1 is the longest by any franchise in the NFL since the NFL began seeding the playoff teams in 1975. So that's my stat for you. So your 2013 stupid stat.
What? Oh, I didn't refer to it as 2013. Every time the Eagles have won 13 games, they've gone to the Super Bowl. So one of those is going to give.
Okay.
What is wrong with you? I can't.
Nothing. The Giants are going to win.
Okay.
What's your final score prediction?
38-7.
Wow. Interesting. I think it's a little bit more low scoring than people are expecting. I think the Giants are end up winning it on like a pick 6 at the end of the game.
It's bold.
It is.
It's bold.
I may be wrong, and I don't care. It's either way. I will put Doug Peterson's quote on my wall. I didn't expect this team to be here. So, do I think it's going to win? Yes. But
you were about to say no. You don't start that sentence and say, "Do I think they're going to win?" Yes.
Yes.
No, that's not how that sentence works. But if they don't, this team has so much to be proud of, and obviously, I'll be upset with the outcome, but happy with how this season went for them. I'll take your real victory too because they're going to win. Okay.
Either way, Duncan, we are at our time limit. We actually moved really good timing. Why don't we tell the people where they can find you?
I'll be happy next Sunday.
Okay.
That's all. You can find me on Twitter. Everywhere else, I don't care. All
right. You can find me on Twitter at Ashley_Marie with 2 A's in Ashley. Not in Philadelphia this time. I would never go there during this game.
Eli Manning's going.
Yeah, good luck, Eli. One of the Giants players said he wasn't allowing his mom to go because he said that she would like talk back to the Eagles fans and it wasn't going to be good for her. Either way, you can catch us here live 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next week or wherever you listen to your podcasts the next day. You can find me, Duncan, and all of the Undroppables crew by becoming a patron and getting access to our premium Discord channels on the patreon.com/the Undroppables. I'm a mess today. That said, I look forward to a very exciting weekend of football, and we will see you all next Wednesday.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
I don't have the thing pulled up. Okay, go Birds.
No.